I am reading The Queen from the Land of Snow. The Queen is very unhappy because there is no snow and she can't stop crying. There are even fears that she may die. Until Stella the Stork comes up with a solution and brings snow back to the palace. This is The Queen from the Land of Snow, written by Annie Holland, illustrations by Dee Foy. After Stella's amazing journey to Bethlehem, see special delivery, and the media frenzy that followed in the stork press, there have been many requests to hear about Stella's life, especially her earlier days with the express stork delivery service. Being a very modest stork, she has been very reluctant to do this. However, after much discussion and many cups of acorn tea, she has agreed to let Annie Holland tell her life story. This is the first story about the adventures of the young Stella the Stork. Stella of the Express Stork Delivery Service was wearing her smartest uniform. The badge on her hat was so shiny that you could see your face in it. Over her shoulder she wore a very special bag embroidered with the royal coat of arms. Stella was on her way to the palace. She flew up the long drive and landed by the great flight of steps that led to the front door. It was very hot, and she was looking forward to the cup of acorn tea that was always offered to her. A footman opened the door, and Stella was very surprised to see what he was wearing. Wellington boots! The reason for the boots soon became clear. There was water everywhere. The carpets were soaked through, and the golden staircase was just like a water slide. The mice seemed happy enough dancing around, but Stella was beginning to feel worried. Something was very wrong. As she stared up at a portrait of the beautiful young queen, it reminded her of the celebrations when the king had returned from the land of snow with his bride. The queen had worn a golden crown and ridden a white horse. She was so kind and gracious that everyone had fallen in love with her. Now she hadn't been seen for a long time, and there were rumours that she was very ill. Stella was so deep in thought that she didn't hear the king when he entered, and nearly jumped out of her feathers when he greeted her. She saluted and did a clumsy bow, quite forgetting to remove her hat. The king didn't seem to notice. He was wearing a rather magnificent pair of blue Wellingtons, trimmed with gold. The water was getting deeper all the time, and for once in her life, Stella wished she was a duck. The queen is homesick for the snow of her own country, said the king sadly. She can't stop crying. I fear she'll die. I love her so much. Stella felt so sorry for him. She put her beak into the water and tasted it. It was salty. They were standing in a pool of tears. Stella was so upset she didn't know what to say. How could anyone be so unhappy as to cry that much? Stella bowed her head and left. With all that water around her, she lost her way. At the end of the passage she stopped beside a large wooden door. Water was gushing out from underneath it. Stella could hear crying. She stuck her beak into the side of the door, forcing it open. In the centre of the room, a young girl lay on a bed sobbing. Stella half swam across the room, hopped onto the mattress and wrapped her large wings around her. "Oh, Stella, said a voice. "Oh, Stella, it's you." Stella almost fell off the bed when she realised that she was cradling the Queen. To touch the Queen was high treason. She could have her wings cut off for such an act. The Queen clung to her. "I think I'm dying, Stella. I come from the land of snow and I cannot live without snow." She started to cry again. "Oh, please don't cry. We'll all drown if you don't stop. Please, Your Majesty, I don't understand snow. What is snow?" "It's white and beautiful and covers the land. Snow brings joy to my heart. You will know it when you see it." Stella thought for a moment and then said, "You know, I'm sure that I have seen something like that around. If you promise to stop crying, I'll try and find it for you. It may take me a little while." The Queen gave a little royal hiccup and stopped crying. It was easier to fly out of the window than to go down the stairs, but it was very difficult to curtsy while perched on a windowsill. Still, Stella did her best. "Now, no more tears, Your Majesty. I'll be back with the snow." The Queen gave her a watery smile. Stella flew back to Stork headquarters and called an emergency meeting. "We have to find something called snow and bring it back to the palace as quickly as possible," Stella explained to the assembled storks. "Our Queen is very ill and she will die without it." All the storks loved the Queen and wanted to help, but the trouble was that none of them knew what snow was. "It's white and beautiful and covers the land. Snow brings joy to the heart. You will know it when you see it," said Stella. She wasn't sure herself, but tried to sound confident. "Now get busy, everyone. This is top priority." As they set off, Stella was certain that she'd seen snow, or something like it. But where? Stella and all the birds set off. Stella flew and flew until her wings ached. It was very hot. She landed by a river where a pair of blue herons were fishing. Stella knew them. "Hello, I'm so pleased to see you two. Can you help me? Our Queen is dying for lack of snow, and I must take some back to her. I'm sure I've seen it around here somewhere." "Snow?" said the herons. "What is snow?" "Snow is white, beautiful, and it fills your heart with joy. You will know it when you see it." The two herons tapped their beaks together and repeated, "White and beautiful and fills your heart with joy. White and beautiful and... Oh, we know where to find that. Follow us." They flew high over the land and, when they looked down, Stella's heart missed a beat. For miles around, the land was gleaming white. Snow! It must be the snow! It was so beautiful that it filled her heart with joy. Stella and the blue herons landed on the snow, and to her amazement, Stella found herself in a tree, smothered in the sweetest smelling flowers. So this was snow! Snow Blossom! But how were they to take it back? By now a crowd of curious birds had gathered, and Stella asked them all to help, promised them a roost at the palace for the night and acorn tea. They all got busy, snapping off the small branches covered in flowers, and then a great flock flew back to the palace. Stella and the birds appeared like a huge white cloud over the palace. For a moment the king mistook it for gun smoke and thought he was being invaded. He came rushing out with the army and all his servants. He was very relieved to see Stella. "We've brought snow for the Queen, Your Majesty," she told him. The birds all lay down their branches, and before long the land was covered in white snow blossom. People came running. and when they saw the beautiful white flowers, their hearts filled with joy. The king splashed his way up to the queen's room. He picked her up and carried her onto the balcony. She looked out and exclaimed with joy, "Oh, it's beautiful, just like snow." She smiled, clapped her hands and waved to all her subjects. Everyone was so happy that they all burst into tears. "Oh dear," thought Stella, "not more tears." When the king discovered the snow that Stella and the birds had brought back was almond blossom, he ordered it to be planted all over the land so that once a year, when the almond trees burst into flower, the queen's heart would be filled with joy. Sometime later, Stella returned to the palace with another special delivery. Bursting with pride, she was led up to the royal bedchamber and delivered a baby prince to the king and queen. The king was so pleased with Stella that he gave her a medal. The end.